Where are you guys? You're at the Fraud Prevention and Internet Safety. Again, we are happy, pleased, and delighted that you are here today. Can we have the next slide? Well, and Patelco has a promise for you. And our promise is to support your financial well-being throughout your financial life. And so our 4 pillars are, the first one is to manage effectively. When you protect your information and you're leery of random calls, you are managing your information correctly. And then you're going to be resilient, because resilience is when you know that you can pay all of your bills and you actually feel good about your savings, and then you can seize opportunities. And whatever those opportunities are, you know, it's as individual as your fingerprint. Maybe you want to travel on the El Camino Trail in Spain. Maybe you want to be an international bag lady and travel around the world and hide from your kids. But that's what financial health is all about, being well-rounded so you can rise up. The next slide. So it is with my delight that I introduce to you my coworker. He's one of the most dynamic speakers here at Patelco, so I'm really excited for you guys. And he knows his stuff. Sean Casey, take it away.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here. Thank you for that lovely intro, Veronica. It's absolutely a pleasure to present this information to everybody, and hopefully it will help prevent fraud from entering into your lives. A little bit about myself. I've been working in information security for 25 years. I joined Patelco approximately 3 years ago, and because we're always supposed to give a little personal detail for all of these presentations, I also love dogs. So now you know a little bit about me and the credentials that I bring to this conversation. Now, we're going to go with a few different sections here. We're going to start off with how the fraudsters are reaching out to all of us. How are they reaching you? Something that we saw come up during the pandemic was the resurgence of QR codes. They're the little patterns that we use to grab touchless menus and sometimes pay for our parking or get information about a shop that we're walking by. The problem is we can't read them. We have to use our phones to read them, which means that we don't have the opportunity to verify what our phones are seeing before they scan it. Now, the problem with that is that you could be directed to a terrible, awful site that does terrible, awful things to your phone. And that's not good. We don't want that. So you want to take a little time and just look at these QR codes, see if they look legit, make sure it's not a sticker on top of the original sign. Maybe ask an employee, hey, is this legit? Is this the code that I should be scanning? If it doesn't look right, or if you can't find someone to ask about it, your phone will give you a little preview of the site that it's taking you to before you actually click on it. Take a look at that site. Make sure it looks associated with the organization that you are trying to maybe get a menu at, or just that it's appropriate. I'm going to go into more depth about all the phone scams later, but our phones are with us all the time. If we're not checking email or looking at social media, we might be playing Candy Crush or something else with our phones. That's how the scammers are also going to try to reach us. The phone is a direct connection to each of us, and we need to be careful about the calls that we're accepting and the text messages that we respond to. Finally, we have good old email. We're all familiar with the fake advertisements that come over email. Oftentimes, there are a lot of too good to be true opportunities presented to us on email, and I can almost guarantee you that each one of them is a scam. We'll get into this a little bit later too, but these are the avenues where we need to be very careful about what we are engaging with. Need to make sure that we're not giving them any attention or information. So we're going to transition to a little poll here. I wanted to ask first, who has been affected by a scam lately, but really we all have at least encountered one. So Veronica will be popping a scam, not a scam. She's going to be sending a poll out to everybody. And if you could just take a click and let us know which scam has affected you most recently, that would be great. And while everybody is clicking on the poll, I'd like you to consider that we no longer ask if you have been anywhere near a scam. We all know that we've been affected by one, or we know somebody who has. So thank you for clicking on these and letting us know what is nearest and dearest to your hearts. And I see a lot of others in there. Maybe we could get a little bit of feedback in the chat about what other scams have been affecting you or people in your life. And we'll actually use that information to help inform our next fraud presentation. Okay, I think we just have about 5 seconds left on that for anybody who's still trying to decide. Oh, far and away, we have a little bit of IRS, Medicare, and romance, but we have a lot of other in there. I'm really going to be interested to see what comes out of the chat in terms of the scams and fraud that has been affecting all of you. Let me go ahead and shut that down. We can share those results out. We'll give it just a moment here. I'm going to take that down and move on to the next slide here. So what are the scams? What have we been seeing? Patelco deals with a lot of fraud perpetrated against our members. And we do a lot of research to find out what's going on out there. We have an entire department dedicated to protecting you. One of the big ones lately has been romance scams. Now, romance scams come in all different flavors, but at the heart of the matter, it's preying on loneliness. Especially through the pandemic, a lot of people spend a lot of time alone, and most people don't do well that way. So a message comes through, or perhaps somebody on a dating site or social media sends us a message out of the blue. They are always attractive, by the way. And they really do, look to try to engage you, knowing that we've all been locked up. And they'll say a lot of really nice things and try to get you hooked, and suddenly it all changes. They need money for some reason. They want to get it. They need a plane ticket, or there's an emergency. They lost their job. They need to be bailed out of prison in a foreign country over some misunderstanding with their passport. Or maybe they want information for a marriage license. None of that is going to be true. I guarantee you, the love of your life is not sitting in a prison in Singapore, nor do they need money for plane tickets. Just please never send money to somebody you don't know, especially somebody that you've only met online. It's almost guaranteed to end up with you with less money, and you definitely won't encounter your romantic partner. Now, we've seen check fraud creeping up lately. For those of you who don't have checkbooks, you might have seen them in movies where somebody writes on a piece of paper to pay somebody else. The problem with these is that sometimes scammers will intercept them in the mail, and they can actually use chemicals to wash off the ballpoint ink that you put on there very selectively. So they may change the amount and to whom it is made out, but the signature remains in place, and you're going to have a tough time proving that you didn't write that check out to somebody you don't know for a whole lot of money. What's nice is that there are pens that are pigment based instead of just being a goo that sits on top of your check, and it actually penetrates the fibers of the check, gets down in there, and can't be washed out. So if you look for a a fraud-proof check pen on your favorite online shopping place, or perhaps even in a stationery store, you'll be able to ensure that your checks don't go astray. The other way we say that see this coming around is that you might receive a check for something that you've been trying to sell online, but it's made out for over the amount, or perhaps it's made for the right amount, but it's still bogus. Anytime you're going to take a check for something, especially if it's a large amount, I recommend walking down to the financial institution with that person so that it can be cashed. Otherwise, you may end up holding a bogus check. You're going to be subject to probably bounce check fees, and your stuff will be gone. Medicare. This ties back to Veronica's comments that the scammers are definitely targeting our senior citizens. They will call, they'll send text messages. They will all be alarming, or they will be offering to save you money. The government is not going to send you alerts on how to save money. They're also not going to call you. Medicare is not going to call you. If they need to talk to you about something, they're going to send you a letter. I understand they send out many letters. If somebody calls you or sends you a message trying to get you to urgently do something to address your Medicare or to save you money, I recommend that you either call that institution back. If you have somebody providing Part D, call that healthcare provider or that health insurance provider and ask them directly from their website. Call them from the number on their website, excuse me, and call them and say, hey, did you call me about something? Probably they didn't, but if they did, you'll be able to get back in touch with that same person who started the call and be able to continue knowing that you actually are doing business with the right people. The government typically isn't going to call you as the first step. They're going to send you a message. They're going to send you mail, physical mail through the post office. And if they need to talk to you, they'll notify you in that message, that mail. Finally, if you're looking to save money on it during the enrollment times, go directly to the providers. Do your research. Certainly don't trust any messages or emails that you receive. Finally, we have the online job scams. There's a lot of people these days who are looking to maybe make their dollars go a little farther, or have a few extra dollars to make go that distance. We're seeing a lot of scams come after these people. The two primary ones that we see are what are called buy-sell scams. They offer to give you a product at a steep discount so that you can retail it. So you become a wholesaler, supposedly. The problem is that you buy these products by sending them the money, typically through a means that doesn't protect you at all, such as a peer-to-peer money transaction application or something like that. So you buy these products, and you will never receive them, and then they disappear with your money. There are companies that will allow you to work online for them, but you need to check them out very carefully. And if they are asking you to pay them to let you work for them, you got to ask yourself, is that valid? Is that how a company does business? Typically, it's not. Then there's also regular work from home companies, or supposed companies, scams, where they'll ask you to pay setup fees to set up for your job. Again, you shouldn't have to pay to start a job. So do be very, very suspicious and wary when engaging with these companies. Here's a little bit of humor for you. Again, nobody's going to ask you to pay them so that you have the privilege to work for them. Another avenue over which, another scam that's being perpetrated is various different wire frauds. Fraudsters have been claiming to be law enforcement officers, making accusations or stating that something inappropriate has happened and that you need to send money immediately or something bad is going to happen to you. they're not going to do that. These are typically going to be scams, and I'm going to stick with the theme of check if you are not confident enough to simply say no. And you can check simply by asking which department these people work for, and look that law enforcement agency up and call their main number from the internet, and then ask to speak with whoever called you. And they're probably not going to be there, or they're not going to have any record of your call, of calling you, excuse me. Law enforcement will always work through investigation and the courts in order to right these things. So don't trust a simple call. Finally, we have the identity theft problem. We've been hearing about this for many years, and it continues. Even if you engage with a scammer long enough that they gain some information, but you stop before sending them your money, they still are gathering data about you. They share this data with other scammers, and if they collect enough information about you, they may actually be able to steal your identity. This means that they can open up credit under your name and never pay it back, ruining your credit while absconding with all those dollars. If you do find that your identity has been stolen through the credit bureaus or through a notification, the federal government has set up a one-stop website for you to help you through this. It's identitytheft.gov. There's a lot of resources available to you there to help you navigate the process of cleaning up an identity theft. Elder fraud is a huge problem these days. As Veronica stated at the beginning, we see a lot of our patriarchs and matriarchs receiving phone calls, receiving emails, receiving text messages that concern them. And unfortunately, they don't always have the familiarity with the technology. They haven't grown up with it, and they can fall victim sometimes. So how do we help? How do we help take care of our loved ones, our friends, our family, the people who really do need our help? First of all, stay connected. The more often you're speaking with your friends, your family, your loved ones, the better. You might be able to help them with a problem as it comes up and prevent them from taking steps that may harm them. I know my dad gets calls and emails all the time, and fortunately he's very sharp and has not fallen victim to any of them. But we do get a kick sometimes out of sharing the emails he shows me, knowing that I work in the industry. But it's important to stay connected. Be involved. By the same token, if you're connected, if you're reaching out often, stay involved in their life and understand what's going on. That connectedness and that involvedness that you are engaging will make it comfortable for the other people to engage with you and tell you about what they're seeing, what they're hearing, the emails that are coming to them. And then finally, learn about the available resources. Every county has an elder abuse or an adult abuse department that can help them, that can help you, and they can definitely help remediate situations like this. Finally, how do we avoid the trap? What kind of fraud self-defense can we engage in? I'm not going to teach you any fancy hand-to-hand moves here. This is mostly about what to do when you're with your technology, with your phones. First of all, take a look at the website that you're visiting. Actually, before that, don't visit a website that has been sent to you via an email, a text message, that you isn't a conversation that you started. Always go to the institution's URL or website directly from the literature that you have from them. I know a lot of people like to Google or use another search engine to find the organizations that they work with, whether it's their power company or their credit union or somebody else. And one of the things that we've seen is search results poisoning, where the fraudsters will actually purchase an ad on a search engine so that they can be placed above the credit union or other organization that you're trying to reach. So if you're trying to get to our website, always just go to that bar and type in patelco.org, make yourself a bookmark, and then you can just click on that every time you want to go to your Patelco accounts or to your other providers' accounts. That way, you know you're always going to the right website and you're not sharing your credentials with the wrong people. What do you look for in a phone call or a text message? Well, it's not definitive, but if you start by looking at the phone number they're calling from and then checking your call history, you can have a little bit more confidence that it might be Patelco calling. But again, if you receive a call from an organization and it doesn't feel right, or maybe you're a little uncomfortable with the questions that they're asking, you can tell them, I would like to call you back. I will call the main number of your organization, and how do I reach you from there? At this point, one of two things will happen. They'll either panic because they know that they're going to lose this fraud that they've been working on. You know, the con is up at that point. Or they're going to be very polite and say, I think that's a wise idea. My name is Sean, and if you call our main number, you'll be able to reach me at extension, 9999. That's obviously not my extension, but we're going to pretend it is. You'll be able to call back in and reach me in that case and continue the conversation knowing that it's actually me at Patelco. Now, when we look at a text message, we can see a lot of information showing up. Now, if we looking at this one, we see that it comes from a long format phone number, something that you would dial to reach somebody. This didn't come from us. This one did. You'll notice that it has a 6-digit or perhaps a 5-digit number there. Let me grab my little annotation tool here, and we will spotlight that with a little arrow right there. If you see that number, that's the short number that we would typically send this particular message from. Now, we do have several other short messages that we will send, or excuse me, short numbers that we will send from. But I would not engage with a company over a long format number, especially over something as important and critical as fraud. Again, I would call their main number and I would ask them, was there an actual fraudulent transaction, from the target in Shreveport, Louisiana for $125.27? And they'll be able to answer that. The real people will, not the fraudsters. Oh, excuse me. One way to protect yourself is to use multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication is just a way for us to have greater confidence that you are who you say you are in online transactions. It consists of something you have, something you are, or something you know. So with a password, that's what you know. So that's our first factor in the multi-factor authentication. Then we have something you have or something you are. Maybe we send you a text message or you have an authenticator app on your phone. That becomes something you have. We're not that fancy that we will evaluate something you are at this time. So we're not going to use your fingerprints or do an iris scan or any of those fancy biometrics, but those are coming, and you use them on your phone right now. So actually we do use those things. So when you log into online banking and you do a face scan or perhaps a fingerprint scan, that is the multi-factor authentication for connecting to online banking. So what are the best practices? Don't share your personal information. Your personal information is personal. It's private. We don't share private stuff. Never give out your usernames and passwords. Those are also private, and we never share private stuff. PINs are private. Your personal identification number that you use with your debit card or credit card, those are private. We will never, ever ask for those. And finally, your multi-factor authenticator codes and alert codes that you receive, do not share those. Those are important to stay on your phone. The only time you might want to share an alert is when you're calling the financial institution to say, I've received an alert and it gives me concern. Finally, I want you to pause and think online. I heard a story the other day about somebody who was in a rush to close on a particular piece of real estate. She worked for a nonprofit, and they were buying a very large piece of real estate out on Treasure Island here in the Bay Area. And they needed to wire a $500,000 payment in order to secure that particular piece of real estate. And fraudsters learned of the transaction through hacked email or something of that nature. And they caught her at just the right time when she was very busy with many things. It was coming close to the deadline. And they said, oh, we had to have a change, and we have a new account for you to wire the money to. They sent it over email. It looked like it came from the right person. It seemed legit. It all looked right. That money did not go to the right account. It disappeared. The fraudsters got away with it. And because it was a wire, very little that can be done. That money probably moved through 7 other accounts before they cashed it out somewhere. So the lesson that I want you to take from that is that if you pause and think, email might not be that trustworthy for a $500,000 transaction, and perhaps you should call the person who is asking you to is purportedly asking you to change this account. Had she called, she would not have sent the money to the wrong organization, and they would have their Treasure Island real estate now. It's very, very sad. And that's a pretty extreme example, but all of us can end up losing a lot of money to fraud if we don't pause and think. Finally, Patelco has a wealth of support services and references to give you. We have our member service number. We have our website. The website has a ton of excellent anti-fraud information to help you with anything that comes up. Your local law enforcement can help you with any fraud that is perpetrated against you. Your county social services or adult protective services can help you in the event of elder fraud affecting someone in your life. And finally, identitytheft.gov is there to help you in the event that your identity is stolen. I'd like to thank all of you for spending this time with me this evening. And I hope that this helps you all avoid these types of problems. Veronica, would you like to rejoin us?
Yes, absolutely. That was a fascinating presentation. And now I wanted to see if any of you guys had any questions. You can put them in the Q&A, or you can put them in the chat. We have he was actually very efficient today and had got the whole thing done in 30 minutes. So we have plenty of opportunity to answer your questions. So we have quite a few here. This lady says, this is Eddie. He said he just wants to give a shout out to the Patelco Fraud Department. Last weekend, he used his Patelco credit card to purchase a couple of concert tickets at a reputable ticket website. Early Sunday, your fraud department contacted me, alerting me to potential fraud activities. Sure enough, his card was compromised. Thank you for quick action and response. Everything was protected and all the unauthorized charges were removed. You guys are on the ball. 2 points, 3 pointers and all. Kudos to Patelco. Oh my gosh.
I need to double down on that. I need to double down on that. I interact with our fraud departments all the time. And I love the folks over there. They are great team members, and they are really looking out for the membership, protecting them and helping them undo the ravages of fraud. It's really terrible.
Thank you, Eddie,
Yeah.
for that shout out. We really appreciate it.
And-
Here's Charles wants to know if you get internet fraud. Oh, he's just saying if you get internet fraud, report it to the FBI, and he has a website. Do you have any? Should we have a fraud center, Sean?
We do have a fraud center, but we don't have a whole lot of reporting capabilities there. The FBI is a good resource for any internet fraud that you encounter.
Yeah.
You should also, typically you're gonna receive messages. Mark them as spam. Mark them as fraud. Notify all of your carriers about this. So if I get one on my phone, I can actually block it and then report it as junk. And it definitely gets handled.
Karen, you're absolutely right when you said that one insight I've taken away is when you're under duress or fearful, we might not use our best thinking. And that is what happens with elder fraud sometimes. These guys go and they go to the funeral directors and they look in the on newspapers and find out people who have recently lost loved ones. And then these predators call on them. And when you're under a lot of duress, especially a stressful situation like that, you can't think clearly. And it has been researched that. So if you have a loved one and they've just recently lost someone, make sure that you stay in contact with them and don't let them answer the phone. Not let them answer the phone, but just be very, very careful.
And Veronica, we have a couple of questions on the Q&A that were answered earlier that may be pertinent to a live response.
Okay, can you read those, Luis?
Sure. So one of the questions that came in was from Lilia, and she asks, do you recommend QR readers for scanning?
I think she's referring to the QR code readers that are available as applications on your phone. I don't typically recommend anything other than what's built into the phone for the QR code reading. When I grab my phone and I take a look at a QR code, it does give me a preview of the site that it's going to, and that's enough, I think, in my opinion. I haven't yet seen a QR reader that offers sufficient protection or additional insights that I would recommend that over what's built into the phones. I trust what the phone manufacturers are sending to us for the most part, at least within the realm of properly representing a QR code. But I don't know who wrote the app typically, and it takes a great deal more for me to trust the app.
Thank you, Sean.
Fabulous, fabulous. And we had another question regarding also not the QR codes, but as far as using phones to be scanned for tickets, like a movie ticket, or services like Apple Pay, where you're providing a code or some sort of a scan from your phone, and they're scanning up your phone for an exchange.
So the tickets that I have seen have come either through the Apple Wallet or a QR code that you display on your phone. Both of those are very safe.
Great. And so now that we have quite a few questions popping in here in the Q&A, Veronica, if you wanted to look through them here, I think we have about 8 if you wanted to.
Okay, Sabine wants to know, what type of pen can I use for writing checks? My elderly landlord only accepts checks, and I don't want there to be any problem with a lost check or, Sabine, a wash check. What would you say to that, Sean?
So what you want is a pigment-based pen. So there are very, very inexpensive ones. I think Pilot makes one for like $4 that you can pick up in a stationery store or from your favorite online shopping vendor. And what that does is, instead of sitting on the surface like a normal ballpoint pen, it actually soaks down into the fibers of the check and is tremendously more difficult for them to wash off of the check. You can actually do searches on the internet for pigment-based pens or anti-check washing pens. You can buy ones that are marketed for that for about $20, or you can buy the pilot one for around $4.
Thank you, Sean. Jean was talking about the websites use the security questions to identify, like the mother's maiden name. She says she's always uncomfortable using those, but sometimes you cannot set up an account without them. What I do, Jean, is I actually save. I don't put the same names for all of my accounts. So my mother's maiden name is Superman for one account, and I actually put a note so that when I go to that account, I'll know that Superman is my mother's maiden name, and I went to school in Tokyo, Japan, whatever. So that would be my thing, is to be creative about it. But what do you say, Sean?
So I do the same thing. I use different names at different organizations, and I keep a password manager on my phone that allows me to make notes about the various institutions. So I can say that the first concert I ever attended was King Ralph, and that's never going to come up as a question anywhere else, or it'll never be used as an answer anywhere else. Those out-of-pocket questions for those types of answers are rapidly finding disfavor with security professionals, and over time, I don't think people will be asking them very much anymore.
I think you mentioned something that's very important, a password manager. Can you give us a few ideas on what that is and how it would be useful?
Yep. So a password manager is an application that runs on your phone and your computer. It's synchronized, and it will help you to generate random passwords for every website that you have an account on. It will make them long and complex, and if you ever have to type it out yourself, you're going to be a little frustrated. But it also makes it very, very difficult for those passwords to be hacked. And if there's ever a breach at one site, because you're using a different, very, very complex password at every other site, that data doesn't do them any good.
That's fantastic.
Now, I noticed that JD asked in the chat about cashier's checks. I wouldn't worry about a cashier's check sending one. I go and I get them from a branch regularly. That's how I pay my rent. And when I've used one of those, that becomes an item that Patelco needs to deal with if it gets lost in the mail, or if somebody tries to do something funny with it. You're paying for that protection either at your membership level or by purchasing the cashier's check. Now, when you're receiving one, I would want to go to that financial institution with the individual to cash it at that institution. That way, you know that it's valid when it's done. Laura's asking about reputable password managers. There are tons out there, and I hesitate to recommend one because I don't endorse particular products, but I do know that there's Dashlane, there is Keeper, there is KeepPass. I think there's several others, but if you go into the App Store for your particular cell phone, and you search for a password manager, several will come up. Look for one that has a lot of people using it and a lot of positive experiences, and then go search them out on the internet and make sure that you're not seeing a lot of bad news about them.
Great. Well, I have a couple of more questions here. He says, do you have a recommendation for companies that monitor for identity theft? He had his tax form stolen from his mailbox.
There are many companies out there that are doing it, and I don't have a particular recommendation. This is one area where a internet search engine is your friend. You can look and see how other people are taking advantage of it. I believe that we have at least credit reporting available to Plus members.
Yes,
at
and
Patelco.
it does have, if anybody's on your, with Patelco Plus, which is a checking account, if there's anybody going onto your credit report, it will send you notifications. So that's something that we have here at Patelco.
Yeah.
We have a person here who closed their PayPal account a while ago, but scammers found her email and they keep sending the email supposedly from PayPal that I owe money. It's just a scam.
It sure sounds like a scam. If you've closed out your account with PayPal, you probably don't owe any money. If you're feeling a little nervous, go to paypal.com. They have customer service available there to help you, and you can contact them and verify that you're free and clear. If you are indeed free and clear, you can go ahead and start disregarding those messages, reporting them as spam or fraud.
That's a good idea.
PayPal may also want to see the details of those messages because I know one of my duties at Patelco is taking down the sources of fraudulent messaging to our members, and they may be able to have that email account removed or any websites associated with it taken down. So I would recommend contacting them so that perhaps they can address it.
Glenn wants to know, can Patelco add a feature that enables the member's account to be shut down and only reopened by Patelco? If someone was trying to hack your account on the weekend, this would prevent the hacker from when Patelco can't be reached.
So we do have a lockout feature on online banking, such that if you enter in the wrong credentials too many times, it will lock you out and you will have to contact us. Another thing that you can do to protect your online banking account is to set up that multi-factor authentication. You will be notified with the multi-factor request. You can also set up login alerts in your online banking application. That actually saved me from an event where, I was notified of a login to my account in the middle of the night. And we still don't know how that particular one happened, but I was able to get everything locked out very quickly in order to avoid any problems.
Stanley says that he was scammed when somebody took his email address and contact list and sent out 25 emails asking for his friends to purchase a gift card. It was embarrassing, but hopefully most respondents sent the email to spam and not open.
I'm so sorry that happened. That's a terrible experience. Nobody needs that kind of embarrassment and headache, and then it affected all of your friends. This is just another item that supports my exhortation to keep coming back to multi-factor authentication. If you put MFA on your email, the scammers won't be able to do it.
So what if your card was fraudulently used for a substantial amount? How do you get your money, or do you?
If your card was used fraudulently, definitely contact the financial institution, and depending on the circumstances, you are likely to get your money back. There are protections in place. There are legal protections in place for you. So don't hesitate to contact the organization and say, that is not a charge by me. Please open an investigation.
And that also answers your question, Christine. It is fraud, so you just need to report it to Patelco, and we can make the proper adjustments. So that's just about it for today. What are your closing thoughts on what you want everybody to remember, Sean, as they leave this webinar tonight? Top of mind.
2 items. 1, stop and think. Anytime you're being pressured by somebody on the phone, over email, on a text message, just take a moment. That's usually when the con falls apart. Number 2, make sure you're reaching out to your loved ones. Make sure that you are engaging with them. Make sure there's nobody lonely in your family, in your community, in your life, because that's when people are the most vulnerable, and you may end up saving them from all kinds of heartache and trouble and headache and problems in their lives.
Thank you, Sean. We here at Patelco are focused upon keeping your information safe. So we will be having quarterly fraud presentations so that we can give you the best information so that you can make, so you can be knowledgeable and we can stop the scamming, because there's billions and billions of dollars that are lost. We so appreciate you taking the time out of your busy evening to be here tonight. And we want to see you here next week when we talk about student financing here at Patelco. So I would like to thank you, Luis, for all that you've done. He is our banner behind the scenes, making sure that all of our members are taken care of. And Sean, you always are on point. We really appreciate you bringing your knowledge and your energy and your love of fraud to support our members.
Thank you so much, Veronica. This wouldn't be possible but without you and the rest of our financial well-being and community connected organization. I couldn't do this without you all and with everything that Patelco does to enable us to reach out like this.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. I will see you in 2 weeks right here. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much. We adore you.
Yes, we
Good
do.
night.
Good night.